Trump's killing the establishment, destroying it, not reshaping it, not reshuffling it, destroying it, leveling it down to the foundation and even more. You don't do that with Republicans. So he picked JD, and I said that. I don't know if I said it on your show, but I told everybody straight up, he'll pick JD Vance because this is the MAGA revolution. They were like, no, it's not. It's a blip. And, right. We're looking at 12 to 20 years of MAGA control of Washington, D.C. That's what's happening here. When Donald Trump was considering his vice presidential candidates, I think the final three were two governors and J.D. Vance. The two governors were Republican governors. J.D. Vance is MAGA. This is a Make America Great Again revolution that's taking place. Now, if Trump had picked a Republican, that's the end of the revolution, because literally what you just said is all we have to do is wait 4 years and then the establishment would come back in. Marco Rubio wasn't. Marco Rubio, let's be honest. Donald Trump took $100 million from Miriam Adelson, and that was supposed to buy Marco Rubio as the vice president. And Trump said, that's just not going to happen. And so Miriam said, well, he has to be in somewhere. And so he's in as Secretary of State. You want to see the power dynamic, look at the video of J.D. Vance talking, gesturing, the comfort, and Marco Rubio just sitting there passively and quiet. He has one job and one job only, and that's to do what Donald Trump tells him to do. And look how he's changed. Is this really the same Marco Rubio that we saw a year ago talking about Russia? Vladimir Putin is an evil dictator, a brutal dictator. Russia can't be trusted. Today it's like, no, we're going to sit down. We're going to have good relations with the Russians. We're going to do this. We're normalizing relations. I mean, Marco Rubio just said, okay, I'm going to do my job. Donald Trump sent the signal. He's not about military confrontation. He's about economic cooperation. And that's the direction that we're heading. And Marco Rubio is going to be the compliant tool to make it happen. And in 2 years, when Marco Rubio becomes fed up with it, either he has to conform totally or he's going to be like, then he's going to pop out. Then Marco Rubio, because he'll become like Nikki Haley, who made it to the ambassadorship of the United Nations and then left and then spent 2 years stabbing Donald Trump in the back, campaigning against him. And Marco Rubio will come out, pull up Mike Pompeo or, a John Bolton. We were against it the whole time. This is bad policy. This was stupid. I can't believe it. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are going to crush him. And they'll roll into 2028, and J.D. Vance will be the presidential candidate, and he's going to win. That's 4 years. He's going to pick a brilliant vice presidential candidate. Maybe that person's name is Tulsi Gabbard, and then Tulsi Gabbard will be the president, and that's 20 years. That's how I check. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 4 is 20. And right now he's got a little bit of a leash on China. Mark my words. When it comes time to engage with China, Marco Rubio is going to shut up and start singing a whole different tune. No, the foundation of our, relationship with China is economic. We're going to meet with them. There's going to be great economic deals done and all that stuff. Trump's trying to make peace with Russia. The Russia House and the CIA is not about peace with Russia. It's about Cold War mentality, war with Russia. You think he's going to let them stay on? Tulsi Gabbard's up there sharpening the knives right now. They're going to have a field day. Bring them in. Dead. It's over for the establishment. Finished. До свидания. Probably shouldn't use that word because it brings up a Russia connection and people say, see, the Russians are controlling this altogether. So we'll say auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, hasta luego. It's over. And in the meantime, the Democratic Party ceases to exist. And they're going to have to, it's already dead. There's no Democratic Party. It's dysfunctional. My God, they're talking about Crockett being a candidate. Have you seen her? Crockett, the representative from Texas, who is just hate-filled, bile-filled. Kamala Harris is right now she has the inside track for the nomination. Kamala Harris, who couldn't, I guarantee if Kamala Harris runs for president, goes through what do they call it? She'll be out in the first month because she's the most hateful, despicable, disgusting politician out there. Crockett might stay on for entertainment, but she'll be out. The Democrats have nobody. And it's going to get worse for them. I just want to remind you again, we're 1 month into the MAGA revolution. The Democrats are already decapitated. They've got nothing going for them. They can't stop any of this. They've tried all their tricks. There are no tricks to be played. Trump had 4 years of lawfare to learn all this, learn where the weak points are. And he's taken them down one by one. All the FBI agents that went after him, all 6,000 of them, unemployed, baby. Every U.S. attorney that was out there playing these games, they're gone. The head of the New York field office, one of the most powerful jobs in the FBI. If you're talking about Mr. Establishment, gone. They're all gone. And it's just 1 month. Wait till he turns his attention on the Russia House and the CIA and those 30-year veterans who think they know everything about Russia but don't know anything about Russia, who've been pushing bad policy. Just think what I've just said. I mean, Trump, I've told you this before. Go back to The Apprentice. If you want to know about Donald Trump, watch The Apprentice and watch how he'd operate. J.D. Vance is passing every test. Donald Trump threw him into the, I mean, come on, that was high visibility, high stakes tagging in there at the White House. J.D. Vance could have fumbled that. Donald Trump was testing him. And J.D. Vance passed. He sent him to Munich and said, hey, J.D., why don't you go to Europe and piss everybody off? And J.D. Vance went to Europe and pissed everybody off. Came back and he's a frickin' hero. Then he went to the White House, destroyed Zelensky. He's a hero. J.D. Vance is probably one of the most competent political figures out there because he understands what's happening. He understands his role. He's not here to kiss up to the establishment. He's here to destroy the establishment. And he's a Marine, so he knows a little bit about destroying things. The Democrats are finished. And J.D. Vance is the guy that's going to be leading America going forward. That's my take. He was handpicked by Donald Trump because he is MAGA, and he's proven himself. So, I think J.D. Vance is a brilliant pick, and I think he's doing a brilliant job, and I think he has a long political career ahead of him. The corruption that's being exposed is manifest. It's exposing America as maybe one of the most corrupt nations on the planet on how we operated. Trump's taking that whole system down, for better or for worse. There's people out there that hate him because he's using Elon Musk. Who the hell did you want him to use? The inspector generals? The ones that came up through the establishment and controlled by the Democrats? And they're supposed to investigate that which they're really there to protect. No, you have to decapitate, remove them. You bring in Elon Musk and the outsiders and say, because Elon Musk doesn't care. There's no sacred cows for him. And it's hurting a lot of people, I admit, but that's one of the things the Democrats have done over the years. I mean, I love it when people go, you're hurting veterans. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you have guaranteed job security in the federal government in a job position that's simply there to sustain corruption. I'm sorry. Get a real job. If the government wants to employ you, then there has to be a real job there that makes real sense. Because a lot of these jobs are just about moving paper, stamping paper, and sustaining bureaucratic inefficiency. He's not coming and saying, well, I have to protect this because, this person needs the money and I have to protect this because I made a deal with this person. I have to protect this. No, he's coming and saying, if it doesn't make sense, get rid of it. Many people didn't believe it was right. We're not one of these countries that when we come in and we take over, we take the ancient regime to the town square with the guillotine and off with their heads. Maybe we should. Because what's happening right now is the Democrats are making phone calls and telling people, don't worry about this. We have the establishment. We have established practices. This is just a temporary glitch in America. We'll be back. No, you won't. By the time this is done, there will be a significant number of those Democrats frog marched off to prison where they belong. And so that's what Elon Musk is doing. But the Democrats hate that. That's so bad. You can't do that. There's no precedent. Guys, it's a revolution. There's not meant to be precedent. It's meant to be precedent setting. And that's what's happening here. The Democrats are trying to tell the Europeans to hang on, but there's nothing to hang on to. And they're starting to realize it. One by one, the European countries are starting to go, holy cow, we're 1 month into a 4-year term and ain't nothing stopping this guy. This guy's just coming at us. It's not like at the end of the term where you go, all we have to do is hold on for 6 more months. Then there's an election. The election cycle takes over. Things calm down. He's 1 month in to a 4-year term where he says, I'm taking the whole thing down. And he's going to take the whole thing down. And that's what's happening. It's just basically we have a bunch of crying taking place as people realize that, the corruption that sustained them, empowered them, defined them for the past several decades is being done away with, both here in the United States and abroad. The Trump administration isn't trying anything. They're doing it. His opponents are trying to stop him. They can't. Okay, this is a steamroller. This isn't trying. This isn't people asking permission. Part of the problem is that the mainstream media was part of this corrupt Democratic establishment. How many hundreds of millions, hell, billions of dollars of USAID money of U.S. government went into funding this media establishment? You know it. You know it. It's there. The reports are there. So let's stop pretending the mainstream establishment is the conscience of America. What have they been replaced with? X, for better or for worse. X is the driver right now, literally. I mean, I don't know how it got to this. I don't know if I even like it, except that when you have something as corrupt as the mainstream establishment, it has to die. I'm sorry. The New York Times literally has to go bankrupt. The Washington Post has to go bankrupt. The entire system, MSNBC, CNN, all this, they have to fail, collapse, be brought down to nothing. And those who funded them must be destroyed, not just financially, but politically, so that they have no credibility. They've been exposed for the facilitators of intellectual corruption that they have been doing now for decades. We have to clean the whole thing. And the way you do that is you choke off the money. And that's what Trump is doing. That's what Elon Musk is doing, shutting it down. And they're screaming to high heaven. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He's the commander in chief, for better or for worse. There are consequences to elections. And the consequence of electing him is not trying to make these changes anymore. He's making these changes. It will happen. Nothing will stop him. The mainstream establishment is the voice of the corrupt, Democratic-dominated deep state that Donald Trump's destroying. So you're not hearing protests from legitimate journalistic outlets. You're hearing the screams of the soon-to-be disenfranchised. All right? But no one cares. No one cares because they don't have influence anymore. They don't move the needle. I mean, we are at a state in America today where a Joe Rogan interview is the equivalent of what a Meet the Press interview used to be. I mean, my God, when I was coming up through my, political maturity as and back when I was doing national security stuff, the Sunday talk shows, that was it. That was it. You got on a Sunday talk show and you made the big league. I mean, I remember when I would get invited onto them. It's like, there I am, Meet the Press, speaking with the man who's literally defining the news cycle for the next week. Ted Koppel. Good Lord, if you get on Ted Koppel, you were doing well. Got that interview with Tom Brokaw. Man, you hit it out of the ballpark. You're there. You're in the driver's seat. That's the way it used to be. No one gives a damn about them anymore. I mean, what do they got? Caitlin Collins at CNN. She's a joke. There's no serious journalists out there anymore. Name one. I challenge you. Name one. One serious journalist in the mainstream. You can't. They're all corrupted. They've all been, exposed as the empty suits that they are. And the mainstream media is being flushed down the toilet of life, as it should be, because it just stunk. It was just sitting there, stinking, not contributing positively to anything. Flush the toilet, get rid of it. Let's get something new. Do we have to work on crafting this new stuff? Yeah, once the revolution's done, though. Right now, we're in a revolutionary period, so I'm sick and tired of people complaining about this, that, and the other thing. It ain't supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be revolutionary. We're 1 month into it. Wait till we're 6 months into it. It's going to get ugly. I don't know what the president's going to say tonight, but I would imagine that he's going to say things similar to what I'm saying right now. Buckle up, because it's going to get serious. We are changing the direction of this country, and we have to, because this country is going straight to hell. So Joe Rogan now is the news driver. You get on Joe Rogan, everybody will be talking about you. Next week, you are defining the news cycle. How did that happen? Because of the corruption of the mainstream media. Because nobody cares about them anymore. I mean, the Democrats are desperately clawing onto them. But what? We get to watch Don Lemon trip and spill a cake so we can celebrate a birthday with him. That's the kind of artificiality that exists with there. Joe Rogan's calling people in, having an honest-to-God conversation with them. Tucker Carlson's having a conversation. There's conversations taking place today that could never take place in the past, because this is a revolution. It's a revolution in every aspect of how we define ourselves as a nation, as a society. I don't know how many times I have to tell people, had Kamala Harris won this election, we'd be midway to a thermonuclear war right now that would have happened by the summer of 2025, and we'd all be dead, because that's a sickness of the Biden approach, sickness of her approach, the sickness of the establishment. My daughter went to Georgetown University. She just graduated last May with a master's degree in Southern Caucasus affairs. Good degree to have, in theory. All of her classmates, without exception, were either military foreign area officers or State Department, people, or maybe other government agencies pretend to be State Department people. We never know. But most of them were from the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, or the derivatives thereof. U.S. government programs, funded programs that were in Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, trying to collapse a government, literally trying to collapse the government of Georgia Dream and impose an American-driven solution to a Georgian problem. They knew it. They all knew what they were doing. You want me to cry for these people when they lost their job? When your job was to go abroad and destroy a society? I'm sorry for the people who are going to lose their jobs. I'm sorry for the suffering they have. But you know what? You bought into a system, unquestioningly, that was going to lead us all down the path of hell. And so therefore, I'm not sorry. You're healthy. Go find new work. Find something constructive in society. But maybe you shouldn't have been a government employee, because what was that? Government employee sitting at a desk doing what? Did you really ask what you were doing? Did you really ask what you were trying to accomplish? The whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. The way the American system worked was a Ponzi scheme predicated on the absolute necessity to have chaos and anarchy, to have conflict in the world that justified the defense-centric spending of America. The military-industrial congressional complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned about was alive and well, living and thriving. But it's a Ponzi scheme. It's never about to achieve stability. It's always about the next scam to get people to invest money up. And eventually, your crises bring you to a culminating point at the top, which is nuclear war, because there's nowhere else to go. That's where we were. We were at the tip of the Ponzi scheme. And thank God Donald Trump came in and went, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Screw it. Bam. Knocked the whole thing down. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch that Ponzi scheme collapse. I just had an interview with just a fantastic guy. His name was Konstantin Kevorkian. I think he's a journalist with Ukraine.ru. We had a long conversation as part of my new The Russia House program. But he talked about how in the 90s, because he kept saying, America, stop talking about 2014 and the American involvement there. Stop talking about 2004, 2005, the Orange Revolution, the American involvement there. He said this was in the 1990s. In the 1990s, he was part of the group of Ukrainians that were being lured in by USAID, taken on these junkets into the United States, where they would go to the White House, go to the Pentagon, get the briefings, and they were being coordinated by the American Ukrainian diaspora, the Banderists, working with the United States to inject the Banderist ideology back into Ukraine. For what purpose? To bring down that government, to install their own government, to create the situation we have today. It's been a process decades long in the making, and it almost worked. You want me to cry for the people that lost their jobs who were doing that? That's not how we define America. That's not how America should be defined. When I was with NBC News, I remember I worked with. They had a correspondent in the White House. I can't remember, Claire Shipman maybe. And every Sunday, these people would gather in the White House to get a briefing from the National Security Advisor. At that time was Sandy Berger, and it would be off the record. So they would say an unnamed White House official. But the purpose of the briefing that time was for the White House to set the tone of the news cycle for the week. So the National Security Advisor comes out and throws stories out there. And then those stories get picked up, covered, and then on Monday they get a bigger story, a follow-up story on Wednesday. By Friday, talk about it. And then on next Sunday, they're doing the wrap-up on the Sunday talk shows. And then Sandy Berger holds another briefing. And that way the government controls the news cycle. And at that time, this was right in the aftermath of Operation Desert Fox, the whole case that the United States was making about WMD. And I said, hey, I can get you to expose Sandy Berger as a liar in 3 questions. You just have to ask the questions in sequence, and he'll be exposed as a liar. And they did. At the end of the 3rd question, he stopped Shipman. He said, I know that Scott Ritter works for NBC News, and I know he's responsible for these questions. If you ever use Scott Ritter again, you'll be kicked out of this pool. And when it was reported back to me, I was like, boom, we just got Sandy Berger, because, of course, freedom of the press is the most important thing in America. My God, NBC is going to lead the charge. We're taking down the Clinton White House. Boom, boom, boom. I was fired the next week. Fired the next week. And that's when I knew that the media was never about telling the truth, never about honesty, was always about the hand in glove relationship they had with the U.S. government in corporate money. That's the way it is, man. It's time to bring it to an end. And that's what's happening here. This corruption is from the bottom to the top. And the mainstream media was disguising it because they were part of the corruption. Every single one of them. At some point in time, they forgot what it meant to be a journalist. And they started becoming a slave of corporate interests. And corporate interests are part of the corruption because they work hand in glove. If you worked in the government, you were working to sustain corruption. Literally, one way or another, you're sustaining corruption. So yeah, you lose your job. Does that mean that there's no need for government? No, but it does mean that maybe 9 out of 10 jobs that we were funding with American taxpayer money shouldn't be funded. Maybe it means entire administrations need to be done away with, because what are they doing? There were schools in America before the Department of Education. So the Department of Education doesn't actually equate to better educated Americans. In fact, since the Department of Education's come in, the quality of education in America has plummeted dramatically. Now, I'm not saying there's a cause-effect relationship. I am saying that obviously that's not the solution. So then you have to ask yourself, why is the Department of Education there? What are they accomplishing? Why are we spending this money on it? Well, maybe it's part of an establishment designed to take control, to manipulate, to sustain, to enrich. We're finding out a lot of this money went down to the wives of people who headed up a non-governmental organization to teach, Afghan women, the benefits of erotic art or something like that. Literally, there's something like that taking place. Millions of dollars being allocated, but they can't go to Afghanistan because it's shut down, but they still receive the money. Every year the check goes out. It's deposited and nobody asks any question. What's happening? And then you find out that this organization, just one person, the wife of somebody who has a 70% overhead. So you give her $1 million, she puts $700,000 in her pocket, she sits back and does nothing. That is the entire way the system works. You're going to see Trump meeting with Putin, meeting with Xi, meeting with Modi, the big four. And that BRICS, far from being dead, is going to become one of the most relevant forums for the United States. Not that we're going to become a BRICS member, but that we're going to work with BRICS as opposed to against BRICS, that we're going to redefine our focus in the world on the global South, not on the transatlantic relationship, not on World War II era Pacific relationships. We're not going to let North Korea and South Korea define our military posture in the Pacific. We're not going to let Japan define that either. We're going to seek peace. We're going to seek the settlement. Trump has said he wants to bring up denuclearization of North Korea again. That's one of his goals and objectives. He's not doing this because he's looking for a war with China. He's doing this because he's looking for peace and stability with China. It's a more difficult question because China comes in with a very strong hand. People have talked about his approach towards Russia being one of seeking to put a wedge between Russia and China. I think it's the exact opposite. I think Trump knows that Putin has Xi's ear, and that what Trump is going to do is go to Putin and say, "Come on, man, tell Xi he's got to work with me. We're trying to look. I proved that I'm willing. Hell, I brought NATO down. I did everything to create stability. I need the Chinese to trust me as well. I need some good faith effort on the part of China, not to feel threatened by it. I am not the Biden administration. I'm not the old Trump administration. This is revolutionary Trump." So I think BRICS is a perfect forum where these sensitivities have already been addressed. There's balances being done. And I think you're going to see the United States working with China, Russia, and India to make the global South an ally of America, not the adversary of America. This is the strategic direction I see the United States heading in. It's more than a 4-year program, I can tell you that much. And so to have any success of this, Trump has to convince the world, the Russians, the Chinese, that A, he will be consistent in his 4 years, and B, he is creating a domestic political imperative in the United States where whoever replaces him will sustain this trajectory. Because it doesn't work to talk about all these sweeping changes only 4 years from now, to have Trump go down, Biden-type Democrats come back in and return it. That no one's going to do business. And I think that's the direction he's heading with Russia, not to divide China and Russia, but actually to use Russia to help China and America become better, economic collaborators. And this has to include India, because you can't isolate India. India is very afraid of American-Chinese collaboration of that sort, because it would isolate. And that MAGA will be the movement that defines America for the next 12 to 20 years. And that gives all these nations a window to say, okay, we can work with America and we can solidify a new world order, so to speak, so that when the post-MAGA movement comes in, because America will be great already, so you don't have to make it great again. If maybe it would be called "We Made America Great," but that movement won't be seeking to change this. It'll be seeking to sustain it. This will become the new international rules-based order, except it's not going to be an international rules-based order. It's going to be something bigger and better, but that will become the foundation of our national security strategy, similar to what Biden said the international rules-based order is the foundation. Well, Trump's killing that. We're going to redefine something so that in America, Democrat, Republican, MAGA, or whatever the hell the Democrats end up calling themselves, they say sustaining this is essential. And this could define our relationship with the world for the next 80 to 100 years, just like the transatlantic relationship defined our relationship with the world from the end of the Second World until today. Things change. Nothing's forever. Who knows what the world's going to be in 100 years? But it'd be nice, at least projecting forward, that we're not projecting forward 100 years, held down by the anchor of an 80-year-old relationship, the transatlantic relationship, that's just about war. That has to end. That has to be finished, and we have to move on. And I think Trump can get the credit that he deserves. I think he has a vision. I think his vision is it is predicated on America being great again, but it's also a realistic vision about the state of the world. I mean, my God, when were we going to hear an American president say straight up, NATO expansion caused the conflict in Ukraine, and that Russia isn't the threat, Europe's the threat? That's the truth. So if you want to have stable energy security relations between the United States and Russia, you need a stable global energy security environment. And Middle East conflict is the antithesis of that, the anticipation of potential conflict with Iran that could shut down the Strait of Hormuz and stuff. This is the opposite of stability. The Trump administration wants peace in the Middle East. Look at what they talked about with Russia, the 90-minute phone call. One of the main things they talked about was energy security. Now, that's an important dialogue to have between two of the world's largest oil-producing countries, the United States and Russia. But, Russia is part of the OPEC plus organization. And, Middle East oil plays a very big role in global energy security. So the Trump administration is about engendering stability. And the main reason is for energy security. That's the number one goal of the Trump administration when they talk about the Middle East today. Energy security, which means they have to silence Israel. I mean, I wish these people would just stop hating on him, because he's the only one who's done a damn thing for the Palestinians. He's the only one who's done anything for the Palestinians. The fact that he's doing it in a non-traditional manner underscores the fact that he understands that the traditional approach towards solving the Palestinian issue, all it brought was more war. He's actually talking about solving the problem right now. Israel's ambition to go to war against Iran. This is why Trump called Netanyahu out. And he said, you're not going to take us down another war with Iran. You already did that in Iraq. You did that elsewhere. We're not letting you do it again. Called him straight out, and it's not going to happen. We will not let Israel get us involved in a war with Iran, because we need stability. We need peace. Which is why Trump is focused on resolving the Palestinian issue. And I also think that I think that let's again just template this. What's the solution for Europe and Russia? The de-emphasis of conflict and the emphasis on economic issues. What appears to be his way of resolving the Middle East, a de-emphasis on the military, an emphasis on the economic issues. Energy security is, of course, a big economic issue. So now, having done that, we flip over to Taiwan or to China. And what you're supposed to expect now that Donald Trump's solution is war, it's going to be an economic solution, not economic. Economic warfare doesn't solve anything. It's going to be an economic solution premised on the de-emphasis of the military and the emphasis on how we can work together. And this is where you're going to see, I think I talked about it earlier, the big four. Hamas and the citizens of Gaza who fought for 15 months, fought to a standstill, they earned a seat at the table. And Trump has created for the first time, an American president that's created a template that could lead to a genuine Palestinian state in Gaza. It's not a concentration camp. It's not a refugee camp. It's a standalone state rebuilt from the ground up with viable economy. Look, they can tap into that, to the gas off their shore. Tap that in. They have peaceful relationships with the Israelis. That gas can be part of a greater, gas development project that feeds in. Money is derived to them. They can build their airport. They can have airplanes land. They have a port. Ships come in. My God. Did you hear what I just said? For all the people out there saying Donald Trump is a Zionist and Donald Trump is Donald Trump, I just told you that Donald Trump is the only damn leader that's actually created a momentum for a two-state solution. Now, it may not be the two-state solution that people envision, but I'm just telling you right now, if you think that Palestinian Authority was ever going to get you to a two-state solution, you're higher than a kite. They were created to avoid it. They work for the Israelis. They literally work for the Israelis. So stop factoring in the West Bank. It's politically dead right now. They haven't earned a seat at the table. I mean, nobody has a plan. Nobody has a plan. And if your plan is supporting and embracing the Palestinian Authority, then that's no plan at all. It's not going to happen. The Cairo summit is the Arab world waking up to the fact that they have to do something to change this paradigm. And I think that's what they're doing. They're putting flesh to the bone of a counter proposal. And we have Donald Trump to thank, because if he hadn't put that ridiculous proposal on the table, we wouldn't be where we are today.